Okay, let's get to independence.
Yeah.
Not that it's going to be any lighter
Basically,
I was going
there,
to
but
say, yeah, we should be able to calm down now. But after that episode,
no, but I rewatched again, and my Calian myopia still took over. Like I know what happened with the other characters, but my man was in danger, and so that
yeah, that's
is
all I
my
remember
focus.
about the episode. I did not rewatch because I was just like, you know what, I'm going to try to trust my memory, and that was the wrong choice. But um, yeah, all I remember is like what happened with Calian. Although I do remember in the beginning of the episode, and this has been a moment that stuck with me when no, not Cat, Abby was talking to, I don't know, somebody, and they were like, who's gonna represent an Apache? And she was like, I will. And I was like, where are the Abigail Walker fan cams? Like, that's like the perfect, that's who she is. And I loved that moment. It stuck with me.
I believe it's a scene with her and Tom.
I was gonna
I
say, I
want to
felt
say
like
it was
him,
her
but I
and
didn't know
Tom.
what he was up to because he's like maybe dying. I don't know what he's up
Yeah, he was
to.
bleeding out everywhere, but like he was around enough to give her like these weird like little speech. So like when he walks over to her, like Callian's not even in the jail cell, but he's just like, all these books you have, they're not going to do anything. We're at the edge of the world, and these people just want to know him. I was like, they do know him though. Like he's been here. Like I don't know what you're talking about. But he was giving we're salt of the earth people and need a salt of the earth story. And I was like, not really. These
But
people don't
Tom, like,
care.
as much as we do kind of like have an awkward soft spot for him, he like really annoys me because he's like, he spends half of an episode being an absolute demon. And in the end, he's like, I'm gonna pardon Calian and I'm gonna like get some good PR. And it's like too little, too late. We can see through it. We know you're not doing it for the greater good. You're doing it to like increase your the public standing. Although I don't know who that was for. Was it for Abigail? Because I don't know what the temperature was in the town about Calian, but he definitely did that to try to score some points with somebody. Like, dude, that wasn't for Calian. You're just doing it to be like, I'm a good guy. And it's like, we know that's not true, Tom.
I think he wants to be though. Like I think like besides the fact that his family is like
Yeah, and he
absolutely the
doesn't know
worst.
how to be. Like he can
Yeah.
knows how, but like he can't connect the part of him that wants to be to the part that actually is. So like when he does these things, it's like it's not working, Tom.
It's very
It's like,
dramatic.
yeah, it's like so you're so close, you're just not doing it for the right reasons.
yeah, I think a lot of it's that we still don't know what's really going on with him. Like the fact is, he was stabbed by someone and we don't know, and he didn't seek medical attention about it. The whole episode, he's like, just merely a flesh wound, and he's like bleeding out in the corner.
He did like nothing about it.
Exactly. And I mean, like, he clearly knows more, unless he doesn't want the sheriff to appear weak. I feel like he knows more about maybe who stabbed him or why he was stabbed, and he's afraid to. It's funny, even though he'd be the one leading the investigation, but it's like he wants to pretend it didn't happen in case it shines more of a spotlight on whatever it is he's hiding. Tom definitely very much lives his life in the shadows, and he's afraid to cast any kind of light on it. But I do think once upon a time there was at least semblance of a good person in there, and that his environment has changed him, and that he's still trying to find it. The thing that interested me the most about the episode was that Calian very much convinced a lot of people of his innocence, perhaps even the judge, and they were like, we're with you, but we can't change the status quo. This is the way it has to go down, even though great job, son. And then it was Tom was sitting in the corner, was like, hold on a minute, maybe I can do something like this. So I don't know whether he wanted to, whether he thought it would help, whether he thought it would help his persona, but there's definitely a lot of unknowns about Tom, unknowns about the history of the town. And I feel like as we start to learn more of those, we'll start to understand why a lot of these character moments happen the way they did, if that makes sense.
But it's a very infuriating thing, though, this whole trial,
Mm-hmm.
because like when the pieces start coming together, and I think the part that made me, besides the fact that they really should have been there for Calian, was that all Gus had to do was go to this man's body, stick his fingers in like maybe 2 centimeters and pull out a bullet. I was like, no one examined the body.
Right.
Not a single person. We just like, oh, there's an arrow in his chest, had to be
Yeah, how
Calian.
did the arrow get there?
So Luis snuck up behind Calian when Calian was seeing his little sister Nasha. And when he sees his sister, he actually isn't really cognizant of anything. So Louis took the arrow and he stabbed his dad with it, got it in there real deep, so it looked like he was going to, like he got shot by an arrow, and then framed Calian. So all that like emotion and crying on the stand and then crying in the middle, in the back alley, it was just him putting on an act because he shot his father.
We love an actor. Actually, we don't. That was sarcastic, just to be clear.
But like he tried my patience because he was just like, it was an accident. I was like, you pulled a gun on your father. Like you did that. Like, yes, you didn't mean to shoot him, but why would you even pull a gun on him in the first place?
Mm-hmm. And I feel like the moment it was very interesting for Hoyt this episode, because Hoyt's had a kind of an interesting relationship with the Reyeses in that, yes, they maybe saw him as a son, but they always knew he could be better than what he was. So they were tough on him. But at the same time, now you see why. I feel like this was really where this was the moment where Hoyt kind of became like that kind of son of the family that they always wanted in the Bay, because he kind of proved in that moment he was more of a son to Mr. Reyes than Louise ever was. And yeah, wow, the emotion in that scene, because you felt for Hoyt. Hoyt really thought Calian had done this, so he wasn't wrong in his feelings, even though Calian had been framed. You did understand where those characters were coming from, even if it was Louise pulling the strings the whole time. It was a very interesting conflict for me, because Hoyt and Calian had come to blows beforehand. They'd kind of gotten over that, and then this kind of brought it all back up, but in a far more important kind of emotional way. And I just feel like as the series goes on, we're seeing more of who the real Hoyt is, and I really like that.
Okay, so I don't remember. So I'm going to ask this question, see if anybody else does. Well, Sabrina, you rewatched it. Hoyt and Calian have had like a tense relationship. And now that he thinks that Calian killed this man, that was like brought more attention to their relationship, right?
Mhm.
But does Hoyt, now that he's been proven innocent, like, did that help anything?
He
Like,
apologized.
okay, I see.
So
I forgot that scene.
so at the end of the episode, when Calian is going to leave, Hoyt draws up on his horse and he says that I should have been there for you. And he mentioned how much the Reyeses have been like family to him. And it's clear that Hoyt didn't want to believe that Calian would do something like that. It was unsettling for him to even picture that being a thing, because he knows that Calian is a good man.
Yeah.
With no other evidence in knowing how close he is. We're talking about the relationship he has with the family that he's known his entire life versus a somewhat friendship with a man he's known personally for a few months. Yeah. So, but I like that he apologized, and they had this cute little moment where he was like, so now that I did something for you, does that mean that you owe me? And Calian was like, I said you helped. And like they exchanged smiles. Hoyt winked at him, and they both went their separate ways. And I was like, oh, that's very cute. So we're in a good place then. Okay,
good. Okay, I couldn't remember the status of that. What happened at the end? This is me just like asking you guys what happened in the episode.
Wasn't this where we found out that Tom's injury was not merely a flesh wound?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Like he's just bleeding out all over the floor. And now Abby has to, like, his life is hanging in the balance. Like we've seen the promo. So
it was an interesting moment for her, because didn't she come into him like kind of all angry with everything that's been going on, and then she saw him there like so vulnerable. So it's very much a moment of,
she's like conflicted. She's like, do I save this man and do the human thing that I should, or do I just be like, didn't see that, sorry, and like walk away?
He's been very, the episode with them was interesting because he was being soft in his own way. Like he was trying to get her to understand, even though he said it condescendingly, he was trying to get her to understand that like in these parts, the law doesn't really matter. Feelings matter. And they feel that he killed Mr. Reyes. So that's not, you defending him is not going to help. Not that Abby really did much in the courtroom anyway. But
he was like, the law is based on vibes.
Yeah, he was. He was very much told her that. But when he was bringing Calian to the gallows, he did like stop next to Abby, and he was like, "You did what you could. Like you did your best, or something." And I was like, "She don't want to hear that right now." He meant it softly. Like he meant to like to save her feelings, and I was like, "It's not helping. Just go up to the gallows. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. She's obviously going to save him, or somebody's going to save him. We might get a scene where she's like there in panic, and then like Kate runs in and it's just like, oh my God, someone call a doctor. And then they help him. Speaking of Kate, I had a real hard time holding on to the thread of what is going on with the Pinkertons.
And what was she up to?
Well,
she was shaving that man, right? She was shaving his mustache off.
Yeah,
she threatened Ethan.
That was funny.
Yeah, she threatened Ethan for information. And I guess the thing was that the Pinkertons have now, I guess, are beholden not to the government, but to a railroad company. And he was supposed to be working with Tom because Tom's the sheriff of a potential railroad spot. So money is exchanging hands, bribes are being taken or whatever. The Pinkertons are now supposed to ensure that the railroad comes through this way if that's what the company wants or something. And so she's not happy about that. And it's unclear whether or not she's no longer an agent, but she seemed to want to divorce herself from the group. And also something happened in Baltimore. So waiting to find out more about that.
Well, I'm excited for January 12th.
Yes, where the sister arrives, finally. But it's unfortunately not Sophia Bush. But hopefully this actress brings it.
Yeah, that's a bummer.
Yeah. I don't know. Oh, Wendy's fun. Wendy's great. Wendy's one of the best shows on for the fall season.